are trying to finish this unit today. So I'm going to continue discussion of, where is that? Should be here. Let me first try to see if I can find it. No, not this one, this one. Can you see my screen? No, not this one. I need to get to the other one.
Yes, I can see your screen.
You can see my screen, is it?
Yes.
Okay, I need to find the data cleaning one because we haven't finished that one. The second one from the data cleaning part, the West book one. Okay, the unit 0821. Last class we went over 2 of the notebooks. So today the first part mostly is about string processing. Okay, and some of the material you already learned in Python part. So kind of review. But we will have a new, very important, very handy thing to use. So first, let's see. So we have the string. This is the string that has comma separated. And you do split. And we know that what it returns is return whatever single word separated by the comma. And it's returned in a list. So that's what we got. And then what's the next here went over is, so this part is basically the same as you just call the split. And you get to the list. Is it because you have the list, so that's why you can use this for loop. And with each of it, then you do the strip. So strip is going to take off the space, white space. So the result, you can see A, B, nothing changed. But for the third one, Guido, is it the empty space was taken off. So that's regarding this one. And I believe you also remember this. This is the list comprehension that we learned before. So quite useful. And the third thing, this is pretty straightforward, is pieces, because pieces is a list of strings, is it? And here you get each one of it assigned to individual variable, and then you concatenate. So for string, you can use plus to do concatenation. And here you use double quotation to concatenate that. And there is another way to do concatenation with a bunch of strings. So here you call the join. You can use a join function, okay. And like over here, the comments, for join, it's more efficient, it's faster, especially if you have a lot of words you want to join with a certain pattern. And this is going to be faster, okay. And what the next thing shows is, if you wanted to search for some substrings in a string, is it? So over here, you want to look for this word. If this word is in a string, then you can just call this. And what is the next one? The index basically is, if you can find it, it will return the index location. If it's not, then it will give you the -1 or 0, is it? Or the -1. And the find function doing the similar thing, is it? To see if you can find it or not. So we know that. And the count function basically is try to look for the substring, and you are searching. And it also count how many times that substring occurs. So in this case, the comma occurred twice. So that's why you have the result of 2. And for the next one is to do the substitution. So it's called the replace method. So in this case, we are going to replace comma with double colon, okay. And in the second case is you replace the comma with nothing. So basically you take off. So it's kind of like the strip, okay. You take off the space. But in this case, you won't split the string. You just take off whatever you want. And this is a major important part for today, the regular expression, okay? And it's very useful and very handy. So for the regular expression, so the major thing is you're going to construct a certain pattern that you want to deal with within a string. Is it just think about like the password? Normally say, oh, the password needed to be certain number of letters. Is it should be greater than 10? Is it when you need to have more than 10? And within it, you also need to have like uppercase, lowercase, or some special letter or number combination. Is it? So how do you define this kind of pattern? Is it? So that's the what a regular expression can come to handy. So this is very handy to deal with a certain pattern you want to deal with a string. Okay, so it's used a lot with what we call natural language processing. So natural language processing, and it's also quite useful, like we use that a lot, like for internet form. Is that you need to make sure your input, so it's input validation. So that's used a lot for like a mobile app or like a web app. Is that so? That's also can place pretty handy. So you define certain pattern, okay, and then with that of the pattern you defined, and then you can go ahead and do something. So let's take a look. And in order to use a regular expression, you need to import a regular expression, okay? So import its module. And in this example, what it shows is this is a regular string, okay, you're going to deal with. And with the regular expression module, then you can, it also has a split function. But with the split function over here, so what this is a pattern. This is the regular expression pattern. And what this pattern means is you're going to do something within this string. That string has, S means white space. Okay, white space. And here you have plus. So plus means this previous defined pattern is going to be repeated one or more times. So then in this case, it says, okay, if your pattern has a single white space or more than single ones, so 2 or 3 or more white space, then your pattern meets this condition. So what here is, because for this pattern, what you're going to do is you're going to use this pattern to split, okay, to divide the word. Okay, divide using what? Using this string to do the division. So that's the pattern you define. But the problem is with this pattern, you can only use it once. You cannot repeat use. But in case like for our password validation, then you're going to repeat use for that application. Then in that case, how do you do it is you can compile. So you can construct your regular expression, use this function called compile. So over here, you define, okay, my string pattern, the regular expression pattern is going to be 1 or more white space. Then this reg express. So this variable is going to remember this pattern. And with this, you can plug it into the function you're going to deal with the string. In this case, it's the same effect as what the previous defined. But you can see with that defined pattern, you can do not just use it once, you can also use it for the find all, for substitution, for a lot of other things you wanted to do on that string. So in this case, it's find all, so it's going to return you all of the patterns that match what you just defined, the regular expression pattern, okay? And the next one, the example is a little bit of complicated. So in this case, it says if you want to avoid unwanted escaping with the slash in the expression, okay, and what you can do is you can use a raw string, and with this raw string you can add that R, is it ahead of the quotation mark, and then whatever inside the quotation mark is going to be the string. So let's take a look here. So here we have a string, and this string is multiple lines. So that's why we have this 3 quotation, the pair of the 3 quotation mark. And then the pattern here, let's take a look. This pattern is a little bit of comprehensive. So for this pattern, there are multiple parts we can find. So the first part is identified by the square brackets. So for the square brackets, it defines the pattern for a certain set. Okay, so in this case, what the set will take is, it take all of the letters from A to Z, and all of the digits from 0 to 9, and the period, and the underscore, the percentage sign, the plus sign, and the minus sign. So all of this, it belongs to this set. So any one of it should be part of your pattern. And then after it, we have this plus sign again. So that means it's going to repeat 1 or more times. And after that, your pattern should also have this at sign. So you need to have this special letter. And after it, you have another set. So you have the second set that will take all of the letters, the digits, period, and the minus sign. And what the next you're going to have is this plus sign. So it's the same thing. You need to allow it to be repeated more than once. And after it's a slash and the period. And after it's only A to Z, is it within this set. But over here, so what does this mean? So the curly brackets with some number, is it? So that means the set. So whatever the set, you will allow it to appear 2, 2, 4 times. Okay, so it cannot go beyond 4. Okay, so it can only take 2 to 4 from your set. So this pattern is kind of comprehensive. It's complicated. So, but in reality, with regular expression, most of the time you need to write to come up with this comprehensive regular expression. And once you define the pattern, then what you can do, so over here you call the compile function to compile the pattern, is it? And for the compile function, it also takes the option of flags. So in this regard is, you're going to say, okay, I'm not just allow a cap case, I'm also going to allow lowercase of letters A to Z. So that's why he says, okay, regular expression, you ignore case. Okay, so that's what that part means. And after you define the pattern, then you can do something on some of the text and apply with that pattern. So in this case, you say, okay, I want to find all of the matching strings, is it? So you apply the pattern to the text. You can see that it find all of the matching ones. So all of the legal email address, is it give you the output. And what the next one shows, you can also apply it with search. So you search something, is it? And here says the search returns a special match object, okay? And what the next one is, you can also see if it can find something, is it? So the match function, okay? And what the next one shows is, with that, you can also do substitution. So with this pattern, you find you can also substitute whatever the pattern in the text with something else. So in this case, all of the email address, you see, it's substituted by this redacted, by this word, redacted. Okay, so that's the regular expression. The little bit comprehensive one shows like how to check the email address. And the next one, and if you take a look, you may say, oh, this looks like the same as what we previously discussed, is it? But if you take another close look, you will find this pattern is a little bit different. This time you have what? You have this parenthesis. Okay, so previously we discussed this square brackets with regular expression and the curly brackets with regular expression. And here we have parentheses with regular expression. Okay, so what here this parenthesis regular expression is, it will group whatever matching pattern within what you define the two segments. So it defines the segments, okay? So in this case, we have three segments. We have one segment, two segment, and three segments. And with this, and we compile the pattern, same thing, we ignore the case, is it? And then we are going to try to do the match, okay? With this, with match what? To see what this specific text match what you just defined, the regular expression. Okay, and then you are going to find, you said, okay, I want to see what are those segments. Is this so? This group function gave you, so it will find all of the segments. So if you do want to get all of the segments, then you can call this group function. Then this shows you all of the segments that it finds. And what the next one shows is, okay, with our previous multiple line text, and I want to find all of the segments that match whatever the pattern that you just defined, is it? And if you apply that find all, you will see, yeah, it does find all of the segments for you, is it? Because just think about in the real world scenario, a lot of time you may want to check each segment of your input validation, is it? So that also plays handy in this case. And what the next one shows is you can also match the segment with slash number, is it like /1, /2, and /3 to get the corresponding matching group in the group segment. So in this case, we call the sub method. With this sub method, what we want to do is we want to do some substitution, is it? And the substitution is based on the pattern that you just defined within that text. So what here we found is, okay, you found the first one, is it? So this is the first one, is a name one. And then you're going to substitute with what? With username colon and the name, is it? So that's what the new result is going to be. So over here it shows, okay, you find the second segment, and you are also going to add this domain ahead of it. And for the third one, it's just the surface for the .com, is it? So you're going to add the surface to it. Okay, so this shows you can, after you have the pattern, then you can call all sorts of functions like find all, or sub, or match, or search, whatever, is it, or split, whatever function you want to use to do on specified string. And what the next one shows is we can also do vectorized string. Okay, so over here, for this one, this is a dictionary. So it has name and its corresponding email address, is it? And then we are going to convert this dictionary to a one-dimensional series. Okay, so data now is a series. So that's why you have this result. This is not a two-dimensional array, okay? So it's a series. And then what next we want to do is you want to check if it has certain string, is it? So you can call So over here, this has nothing to do with regular expression. This is just a regular string processing. So you call the string, data string function, and then you call the contains to see if you can find a certain specific substring you want to find, and it will give you true or false, is it? And here it's the same thing. You can, but with even with the regular string function, you can also plug in the pattern. So in this case, we call the regular strings find all, but we plug in the pattern that you want to conduct some task. So it applies to that pattern and then find the segment and return it to you. Okay. And what next is the same thing. For string, you can also call the match function. And this one is just a regular strings slicing function. So it's pretty straightforward. We already learned. So completed. So how is the first one? So everything is good? Yeah, I saw like there are 4 chats, but I only see 1. Okay, so any questions? Yeah, so what is your question?
What is R and plus in every regular expression I saw? In every regular expression I saw R and plus. Could you explain about that?
What do you mean Rn plus?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Let me get back to that screen.
Okay.
What do you mean
Like,
Rn?
for example, here.
Here R, is it?
Here R.
Yeah,
and plus.
this R, if you take a look over here, it explains. It's just, you can, that means you're going to treat as a raw string letter. Okay, the raw string, the raw string letter. So this R means the raw. Okay, means raw. So it's not because a lot of time the backslash is used as escaping. As escaping. Is it just like the slash T?
Okay.
That slash is not a part of the string. It just represents, oh, this represents the tag space. That makes sense? But if you put raw, then that means it's part of your string literal. Okay, so let me, how do, I need to close the sharing here. I need to flip back and forth. Oh, I forgot to resume the recording and do the next one. That second one. Okay, so the second one, what here we mainly deal with is, so far what we learned is when we do read a CSV, is it we read in once the complete file, is it? But so far all of our file are not quite large. It's pretty small, is it? So it will be okay. It can be handled by memory. But in the real world, just think about the big data. Is it because for data analysis, most deal with a large number of data, huge amount of data. So then in that case, if you want to read all of them into memory, that's not going to be allowed, is it? So in that case, we want to deal with, we want to break down the original larger file into some small chunk of file. Into some chunks, small chunks. And then each time you just deal with those small chunks. And after you finish, then you can combine your result together, is it? So how do we do with that? In that case, there are a couple of ways. The first way here it shows. You can break it down into a number of rows, is it? So in this case, I said, okay, I'm just going to read the file every 5 rows, is it? Okay, and every 5 rows over here, then it shows you just read the 5 rows, is it? So let's take a look at that big file. So if you take a look, if you go to our course website, download that file, you will find this file is very large, okay? and it has over 50,000 lines of text. So it's quite large. So, but if you specify the number of rows, then you can just read every 5 or something. Is it? And there is another way to handle it is you can specify the chunk size as number of rows. So then in this case, still read the CSV, but this time the option changes, says 5, but with chunk size as the option. Then in this case, you get something, some object. But be careful, okay, here, the object is not a list. So not like the other case, not a data frame. Not a data frame, okay? So what it is, you can see the result says it's a text file reader. That's what it is. It's some object, is it? Then, but it still allow you to do the iterate. So we can still iterate on this object. So you can iterate through the object and then just do it kind of chunk by chunk. So in this case, so let's take a look. So we first initialize an empty series. Okay, so this is an empty series. With this empty series, what you're going to do is you are going to do chunk by chunk. So each time so over here, we consider every 5 lines as a chunk, is it? So you're going to do every chunk. And with this loop, you loop through the whole file, but you deal with it. So each iteration, so each piece will deal with 5 chunk, 5 lines, basically in this case. And what it does is it will do the frequency counting of the specific key. Is it? The specific key, basically, if you take a look at the file, the key is the last column. Is it? It only has a single letter, is it? And what over here it deals is it will count how many times that single letter occurs, is it? So you can use this loop through the whole file, but deal with it every 5 lines. And then you keep adding it to the series, is it? Based on this specific key, okay? And then you will find out, so the result you will see, okay, the first time is 5, is it? The second time, then the loop is going to give you return 10 records. And then the third one will return you 15 records, is it? And keep doing like this, is it? So what here shows is you can read your file in as chunk of your original file. So read in by chunk, then you loop through the chunk, is it? And you keep adding it to the series, okay? And then you can deal with it. So that's the information part about the file, deal with file with the chunk. What the next one shows is a lot of time after you come up with some data frame and do some cleaning, you want to save it. So you don't want to just use it one time. You want to save it so that later on you can continue to use your data frame. Then in that case, you can write your data frame back to a file. So over here it shows to CSV. So this function, you can write the data frame to a file that you specify, okay? And what the next one shows is you still call the to CSV, but this time it's not write to a file, it's write to a standard output. So basically over here is you're going to have this result be displayed on your screen. Is it? So that's why we have this result. And when you write back, you can specify what delimiter you want to use, is it? And how you're going to deal with nav values, okay? And that's pretty much about, let's see, anything else, the remaining part. The remaining part, it's not too important, okay? And you can also use the regular, the Python CSV. So in this case, this CSV is from Python, it's not from pandas. Then in that case, if you want to write to a file, you can call the writer function, and then you can do row by row writing, okay? So that's regarding this one. And then lastly, let's see. JSON file. How do we deal with JSON file? And JSON file is quite useful, okay? That's why we needed to deal with it here, because it's used a lot for internet traffic. And a lot of time with the web application or mobile application, the backend, you have database, is it? But when you get the information from the backend to your front end through the internet, it delivered via the JSON file, because JSON file is a plain text file, okay? So that the front end will be easily to handle it. And what generally a JSON data looks like, it's a little bit of like a dictionary we already learned. So it has curly brackets. Is a curly bracket defines a JSON object. What it has the key part, and it has the data part, the object part. And the object part, it supports multiple things. You can use a single string in this case. You can also use an array. So this is a JSON array. And you can also use what? Over here it shows you can also use an array of what? An array in this case. This is JSON again, is it? This is JSON data again. So you can also have JSON data, is it, embedded within array. So it's much more, so kind of like more levels, is it? Then in this case, to deal with JSON, you can do load JSON. You need to, of course, import JSON module. Then you call the load function to load the JSON, JSON data. And what here it shows, you have the JSON data, okay? And you can also get the information converted is as a Python object back to JSON, is it? Because the result, what we get over here is some Python object, is it? And then if you want to convert it to JSON so that later on you can write back to JSON file, then you can call the dumps, okay? And what the next part shows is you can also convert JSON file. Is it, not JSON file, whatever JSON data to data frame, to pandas data frame. That's what our main use here, is it? Because you get your data from internet traffic, is it? And you're going to do data analysis. So what you're going to do is you're going to use pandas to deal with it. So you need to convert to data frame. So here it shows how. And that result, we already have it, is it? Then you specify from the result dictionary. So this is a dictionary, is it? With this dictionary, you're going to access its key sibling part. With what the sibling it has, if you take a look, it has name, is it? Age and the pets, is it? Then come back again, name, age, and the pets, is it? But over here, you're going to just take a name and age, is it? Name and age as a column, okay? And then you build your data frame. So basically over here, you build your data frame from a JSON file. And what the next one shows is if you have a JSON file, you can also directly just call read JSON. And what it returns you is also a data frame, okay? So it's pretty straightforward. And you can also write your data back to the to JSON. So here's your export data, is it, to JSON. So you can do that. You can also over here it says you can specify how are you going to orient it. So that's the majority information